Hello, everyone, preppers and non-preppers alike. Let me know if you can hear me, and we'll start this live stream. It's going to be completely unscripted rambles, and I'm hoping for your contribution to keep this kind of thing going, because we're talking the hot topic at the moment, which is, of course, politics. Loud and clear, says Lilith. Hi to Lilith in the comments, and Louise, Johnny Evans and Lady J and Chris82. Hello to you all. Thank you for being here. Get your questions in, get your opinions in all the way through this, please. I'll get through as many of them and speak to you as much as I can. The dive I kind of did a bit of a data digging dive into, are any of the political parties beneficial to preppers directly? But turns out we're a fringe group. So nobody wants to talk to us. Nobody wants to cater to us. And nobody wants to acknowledge the real threats that's going on in the world. And which seems odd considering the government recently published the Prepare website, which we've obviously lovingly embraced with recent videos. So when you do look into the parties, what do you see? For full transparency, I do kind of know who I think I'm going to vote for, and it's not the party I've voted for the last 2 or 3 times in a row, but I'm going to try and be as non-biased as possible going through this. So you can't find anything on preparedness. Even with this new website, there's nothing on there as part of their manifestos to promise anything extra for us, which is a shame. I've also reached out to all the parties individually, local candidates as well as national level, trying to get some sort of statement, which of course, yes, no one wants to talk to me. One party candidate has responded, and hopefully I'll be getting him on the show at some point. But nonetheless, the manifestos as it stands, we're just gonna, I didn't go through every single party, so I do apologize if you're one of these tiny smaller parties, or if you're Plaid Cymru, something like that. I've kind of centered around my own circumstances and who's relevant to me. So when it comes to national defense spending, they're all kind of on a par, the difference being the transparency on the timelines. So Conservatives say they're going to boost defense spending to the new NATO standard of 2.5% by 2030. Reform said they're going to increase spending 2.5% by year 3, and then 3% within 6 years. Labour's committed to spending 2.5%, and they've just said as soon as we can. So they've kind of just give us no dates on that whatsoever. Lib Dems said they have the ambition to spend at least that on defence, but again, with no timeline. Trident is obviously the next thing regarding defence. So Labour's Angela Rayner has been quoted, and you've probably seen it everywhere, as saying, she tweeted a while back saying, "I'm off to vote against Trident renewal through the specific motion is around replacing 4 nuclear submarines." So she's literally voted against renewing it, even though Keir Starmer said he's behind it. So yeah, it's kind of a bit all over the place, that one. The SNP has never and will never support the retention or renewal of Trident. We believe that nuclear weapons are immoral, ineffective, and expensive. Conservatives say we will be steadfast in our support for Trident's nuclear deterrent and have invested in its modernisation. Reform say we need to maintain a strong defence capability and replace Trident. And the Green Party has always been staunchly opposed to the UK ownership of nuclear weapons, so it's clear where they stand with that one. And when it comes to the actual military, it was the more I tried to go past the key issues, the harder it got to get any sort of information. Defense is like that much in all of these manifestos and contracts. It's not even a major part of it for some reason, even with the climate the way it is. It's like we've still got our heads in the sand. Reform UK pledged to recruit 30,000 personnel to the British Army, aiming to restore its strength of 100,000 troops and increase basic pay across our armed forces to boost recruitment and retention. Labour have not pledged to increase the number of soldiers. All they've said is that they would hold a strategic defence review after the election. So they're just saying, vote us in first and then we'll decide what we're going to do. Conservatives have gone all quiet on this subject when it comes to recruitment. I think the fact that they want to introduce that national service that's them playing their card in that situation. The Lib Dems have ambitions to get us above 100,000 troops as well. No timelines and no methods in that. Just it's an ambition. Let's have a quick look at the comments. Keep trying them, Mike. That'd be awesome. As much as I don't, let's just pop these up. As much as I don't rate any of them, I'd probably vote Reform UK just for their values and the fact that Farage is on terms with Trump. I'd rather Trump than Biden for the mess they're making. Interesting. I'm not sure what his terms are with Trump, but yeah, I see the similarities there, we shall say. Lilith says she probably doesn't know what Trident is. I assume you're talking about Angela Rayner there. Immoral, ineffective, and expensive sums the SNP up. Wow. Strong thoughts there from Lady J. That is so strange that defense is so small, especially with how things are. Yeah, exactly. This is what I was saying, Lilith. Defense does not. This is the immigration election. And I get how that can affect housing, economy, everything like that. I know it does affect a lot of these things. And we've seen the detrimental effects on the country when it's not controlled. But why is defense not the forefront of this with the things that's going on in the world? Every other country, they've been voting in far-right parties because of their defense policies, because they're willing to, go out there and fight. It's just insane that it's just took a back burner and you can't get any sort of quote from them. I like that one. Rift Security 01 says, if voting worked, they wouldn't let us do it. There you go. It's all breed and circus. Keep prepping and carry on. It's good advice. That is cracking advice. I'm going to leave that on the screen for a bit for anyone that just happens to join. Keep prepping and carry on. So I mean, it boils down to us as preppers. There's nothing on offer, right? So nobody's offering like the European governments where they're offering subsidies for people building shelters or basements or actually building infrastructure to be there in case of something happening, like public shelters. None of that's on the cards whatsoever. So it is literally what Rift Security says: keep prepping and carry on. It's always going to be down to us as preppers to save ourselves and whoever we can or are willing to after the fact. So what does that come down to then? It comes down to money, right? Because that's what it's all about at the end of the day. Whether you can afford to prep and what level. I mean, we've constantly saying on this channel that with no money, you can still prepare. There is different things you can do, but we all know more money's better, right? If we could all afford a nice couple of Berkey filters and things like that, it would be lovely. So who's offering what money-wise? Conservatives claim the national insurance will be cut again by 2%. To 6%, half the level of the start of the year. The employed will see Class 4 NI abolished. The long-term plan to end national insurance altogether. Income and tax VAT will not rise. Won't drop either, but it will not rise. Although freezing tax thresholds until 2028 will drag more people into higher bands. There'll be no increase in capital gains tax. Child benefit will be assessed and household level with no reduction on couples earning up to £120,000. That sounds to me non-biasedly very much the same. That is pretty much every election. Somebody does that. They'll give you a bit with one hand and they'll take it away with the other. right? That's what all these big parties have been doing to us for the last 15 years. Labour manifesto offers targeted tax hikes aimed squarely at the wealthier voters. The main measure of closing the non-dom tax loopholes to raise 5.2 billion. Business rates will be applied to private schools. Private equity bosses stand to lose their carried interest loophole, bringing further 565 million a year. Income tax, national insurance, and VAT. They've ruled out income tax, national insurance, and VAT hikes, and has left options open on CGT, and pension tax relief. So, yeah, let's read between the lines there. The usual Labour message: let's tax the super rich and give it back to the super poor. Which, the Robin Hood method, it could be nice if it works. But at the end of the day, a lot of this stuff has got to pass through and get voted in by these people that are super rich. Suddenly, it's not a good idea. So a lot of the promises they make never actually can come to fruition because the people that have to vote them through are the ones that are most affected half the time. Insane. Reforms manifesto. Not a manifesto, a contract, apparently. Has promised a £20,000 income tax threshold, no higher rate tax under 70,000, lower fuel duty, and zero stamp duty on house purchases above under 750,000. Inheritance tax will be cut by 20% and only applied for estates over 2 million. Don't want to, like I said, try not to show any bias, but that feels like that's going to put the most money in my pocket. You think about the income tax threshold is like 12,500, I believe, at the moment. That's a massive jump. That's a big jump. The Greens swing the other way with a 1% wealth tax on assets above 10 million. They would align CGT rates and income tax to get rid of the upper earnings limit, and then that restricts the NI paid by higher earners. So, yeah, who's going to give us more money? I don't know SNP's budgets and stuff like that. I haven't delved that far. I do have 4 of the big party manifestos open in front of me, so we can dig deeper if you'd like to. So let's go to the comments and see what you're saying. Rift Security, obviously, vote for cheaper crowbars. There you go. We've got his vote sorted. You can join my party. Johnny Evans, subsidies for bunkers. It would take 2 years for planning permission for one and likely refused. Yeah, but this is where they could take the preparedness of the nation out of their own pockets and put it into the people's and make it the people's choice. If they've give an easy way to get planning permission, like a set guidelines and a subsidy, I don't know, a tax relief on doing something like that, then everyone has the option. So should SHTF happen, they've lost a bit of that liability because they give you the option to do that, but they're not willing to literally do anything. Different governments around Europe have done different things like this, and it's worked. Mark says, Rift is spot on. Don't rely on government or any other parties. Family, friends, and community is the way forward. If and when SHTF muster on their own, the amount of chaos will be uncontrollable. The Rainers one says they are all the same. However, I think Labour will put up taxes. They will have to. Unfortunately, they will have to, because their plans to tax the super rich in the way they want to, or the way they say they're going to, just won't happen. If it's going to get blocked, it's going to be by them people. So they will not take out of their own pockets, no matter how, honourable they claim to be. Lilith, business rates for private schools is probably less than what they pay privately anyway. Yeah, probably. Yeah, probably. I've seen some of these. I've seen some of the premises for the private schooling not far from me, to be fair. It's just madness, to be fair. The Rainers one says, but it won't matter. We will all be in World War III within the next 12 months. So this is the next question then, Rainers. The thing is, are we voting for the next party to rule us for X amount of years till it all goes wrong and they have to call an early election again? Or are we looking now at who you'd like as a wartime prime minister? Picture the candidates now and tell me if any of them you would think is a Churchill, a potential wartime prime minister. If what the Rainers is saying, World War III within the next 12 months. Now, I'm not saying that. We don't do fear-mongering. Hopefully, nothing like that will ever happen and we'll all live happily ever after. But if that does happen, theoretically, would that change how you vote? And is there anybody there that you'd vote for to take us into that? Hello, Teleboy. Tel, long-time supporter of the channel from the very early days, like less than 100 subs, I think Tel was joined us. What's Calvin Face's manifesto? Oh dear. Tel says Nigel Farage. Lilith says Farage. Marty says Farage. That's interesting. We are not judging anybody in the chat, by the way. Anybody puts anything in there you don't agree with, let them have their opinion. This is the best thing about politics. We can discuss it, we can argue it, we can debate it, and we can all be friends at the end over a pint. That's my only rule. Yeah. Johnny Evans says, Farage, bit of a theme emerging in the prepper community. You think so, but I did do that poll a while back on the community page. 189 people, this is off the top of my head, I can't remember exactly, 189 people I think voted, and it was about 40 odd percent for reform. About 30% were none of the above, and then split between the rest. So there is a chunk of this, but is that what the prepper community is? Is it because it's far right is the only time we'll ever see any sort of action? Why do you think that is, Johnny? That's the question. Mark says Farage, 100%. And Angela is with us. Good evening, Angela. So, yeah, let's have a quick glance at these manifestos, shall we? You guys get your opinions and comments in and questions in for me. You know, you want to try and sway my vote, please do so. We'll have one quick glance at these manifestos. I want to show you something, right? That's the start of the Conservative and Unionist Party manifesto. That's the start of the Reform manifesto. That's the start of the Lib Dems manifesto. And that's the Labour one. Did they run out of colour ink? Can they not afford graphic designers? Is this them relating to the people? I mean, if I was them, I'd want to put a bit of graphics in there so people don't read all the words. Personally. Oops, that's not bias coming out, I promise. Right, so let's just have a look in here. Bear with me. And going to, so defense and security is this bit. Yeah, that is literally it. They talk about the 2.5% GDP by 2030. The first class flights to Rwanda, of course, and asylum seekers treaties. That's it. That is pretty much it on defense. I think reform. There we go. So benefits for broken system control. They said it's not 14. It's not 14. Increase the defense spending. Introduce pay. Introduce armed forces justice bill. Recruit 30,000 to the army. So their section's a bit bigger on defence. It's not just a paragraph, but still it's only, a small section of a 28-page contract. 117 pages in the Lib Dem one. Honestly, I mean, if you've got the patience to read that, you're bigger than me. The Labour one, 142 pages. Jesus. This is manifestos to obfuscate and scare you into not reading them all. Again, defence, 2.5%. And that's it. Talking about rebuilding relationships, all holding hands and singing Kumbaya. So you see my point that defence is just not the focus here at all. So there's nothing you could dig into to prepping. I had all these thoughts that you could ask them and we could look at and compare the prepping side of things, but it's just completely overlooked. Angela says, sorry, don't agree with far right. What don't you agree? You don't agree that they're with their policies, or let us know in a bit more detail, by all means. Plenty of politicians, statesmen and women, not so many. Are there any? Scottish preppers in the house. Scottish prepper Farage for me. No SNP for Scottish prepper. What about bin face, says Rainers again. Bob Hunter says, Comrade Starmer, give him a red star. Yeah. His dad was a toolmaker, Main tools he made was a sickle and a hammer. 4 sentences, that's shocking. Exactly. That's what we get for our defence planning in this country. Everyone else is building shelters and preparing civil defence forces. We're just putting a little bit of money in. I like that. Mark says, looks like Kia designed the manifesto on Microsoft Publisher. There we go. This is a selling technique there, Mark. We're not wasting your money on fancy graphics. We're just going to give you 142 pages of ramble. For conservatives, I've seen more pages in Viz magazines. Yes, and probably more intellectual reading in the Viz magazines. What is the far right? I mean, for me, I don't think any of them parties, Conservative, Labour, Lib Dem, Reform, Greens, I don't think any of them are far right. Far right to me back in the day was like BNP and people like that, where it's, it's not just a political party, it's, skinheads and crap like that. So I don't think any of these, for me, I would class as far right. If you're that far of the center, you're right. If you're that far of the left, the other side, you're lefty. There is no party is taking us far enough away to change. Do you need high heel shoes to join the army now? Don't think so. Not sure. It's been a long time for me. Hi, peeps. Lilith, Louise, hello. Hi. Why is everyone saying hello again? What is going on here? I'm going to have to scroll down. I'm well behind on this. It's all jumped up. I apologize. The comment system on this is naff. Remember Keir was the head of the Crown Prosecution Service, so has experience, or he's failed to prosecute Jimmy's. Oh dear. I should really read the comments before I highlight them, shouldn't I? Angela says, no, don't agree with far-right policy. Farage is far-right masquerading as a conservative. I'm not sure I agree with you on that one, Angela. He might have, I don't see the Reform as a far-right party. I genuinely don't. I see them as more right than a lot of the parties, more to the right side than a lot of the parties. But if you just... the first time I looked at them, I read the manifestos and stuff, and it sounded to me like what you sit down in the pub and talk to your mates about. You know, when you sit down and have a pint and say, oh, we know how to fix this country. I can't believe none of the politicians do this. All you need to do is this. All you need to do is this. And I saw so many points that I would have made 5-6 years ago in the pub, just in one. It just a lot of it did make sense to me. Let's be fair, no matter how right or left you are, once they're in power, that really does tone down because they don't want to damage their own wallets. Scottish Prepper, I read all the Scottish Resilience website and docs last night, enough to make you weep. Oh dear. Need to get to the grassroots. See, I want to address this in a way. So, need to get to the grassroots of every individual party and their ideology. We need to know what that is now. I'm not joking. Like, I'll hold my hands up. I voted Conservative the last 2 times. Okay. It's purely selfish reasons based on my own income, my own, you know, they promised this, I should have been better off, etc. If Labour now was the party it was 20, 30, well, no, not 20. That's, you know, older than that. 30, 40 years ago, potentially. Same party they were 50 years ago, definitely. They are no longer that party. They are not the working man's party. Simple as. Conservatives kind of took that mantle over the last 10 years, and even they are completely out of touch with it all now. So there's people that vote for parties, and I strongly advise against this because they always have done. Because their mum did, or their dad did, and because their grandparents did, because their whole family is this political persuasion, they vote for that reason. Don't do that. Go on to vote for policies. Ignore the names, ignore the figureheads. You're not voting for a guy, a charisma. Look how many different prime ministers we've had just with one party, with the Conservatives. Ignore the person at the head of it. Look at the party, look at their policies, vote based on that. Do not vote for an individual person. Things can only get better, guys. Johnny Evans, maybe prepper mindset is someone who is self-reliant, accountable for oneself, and doesn't expect the state to sort out the problems and believes in a small state. This is generally right of centre thinking. Yes, it is very true. We're classed, preppers in whole, people think of as a far right group, a fringe group, as it were. Scottish Prepper 73. I think we crave a party or group that will, for once, deal with practical issues we need to address and cut through the bullshit. Exactly. This is my point. Listen, every election I am on the fence. I have no bias whatsoever. And then I will assess what my options are. And I will not if I genuinely feel that it's the lesser. I don't want to vote for the least worst. I will vote if somebody warrants my vote. And yes, people say, I know veterans fought and died, family of mine fought and died for that vote, so you should vote, but I won't. I will refuse to vote. If there's 3 options on the cards and I hate all 3, I'm not voting for the one I hate the least. You just won't get my vote. Earn it. Trying to skim through. So I need to show it, sorry. Kia's dad only made 1 tool and that's an epic fail. Cheers for the donations, guys. Really appreciate it. I'd rather have your opinions and questions. Come on, get them in here. Let's have a look. The Rainers, if we did have a SHTF event, don't feel that Labour will have the minerals to retaliate and defend our country for... and that's what worries me. I understand your concerns there, and it's one thing I was looking at. And Keir Starmer did... I know I'm not saying sir. I don't know. I just can't. Keir Starmer did say that he would use nuclear weapons if he had to protect this country. And he has literally completely backtracked on his original support for Corbyn and said he supported him at the time because that's what he did, because he's part of the party. But yeah, he has said since that he would use them if needs be. Scottish Prepper 70. Let's cut to the chase. They will all tell you that what they think you want to hear. That's a fact. And when they get in, they may do some of what they promise. Yeah, this is it. A manifesto is not a contract. It's not a liability. You've got to imagine a lot of these parties build these manifestos, and you hear the same question every election, right? You hear the same pundits and the BBC presenters and ITV presenters saying, and how are you going to pay for it? And how are you going to pay for it? And how are you going to pay for it? And they can promise you the world. And they can say they're going to tax all the super rich. But do you know what that does? Do you know what taxing the super rich does? It drives them out of our country. It drives that. You were getting if you're getting a good amount of tax off a community, and you think, all right, well, what I'm going to do now is double their tax and they'll pay more than anywhere else in the world. What's going to happen to that community? That's going to be gone. How much tax are you getting off them now? Zero. You've got to have a level head. You can't just rob the rich and give to the poor. It doesn't work like that. Bob Hunter. People need to get the right left political I can't speak today. Paradigm out of their heads. You are either the side of love, peace, and compassion, or you are not. I like that. And do you know what? It would be an interesting. I mean, I'm sure there's been parties that have said that in the past, that they're just all about love. I bet there was at least one or two in the 60s. But at the end of the day, you've got to think of your kids, your income, your future, our future. So I wish it was as simple as that, Bob. I really do. Lady J, Conservatives don't conserve, Labour ain't for the workers, SNP ain't for Scotland, Greens ain't even green. I like it. And if you want to do the whole hog reform, I haven't reformed anything yet. Scottish Pepper, thank you for the donation. Sheba Dog writing with a brush, writing number 1 on a piece of paper. Okay. I must have missed that reference there. William Quinn, at 62, my grandfathers always voted Labour. So did I until 2016. Interestingly enough, what swayed that decision? What changed that? And before that, were you voting because they voted it? Because I think so many people I know, literally, I've got family that have deleted me off social media because they feel so strongly and they vote a certain way. And because I've challenged that, not challenged it as in just any sort of abuse, but literally intellectually challenged it, they've deleted me. It's funny when you get into a political argument and somebody results to name calling and deleting you rather than coming back with a logical answer. Does right and left even exist anymore? I don't know. It does in people's minds. You know, like I say, this far of centre either way, and you're far left and far right according to people in this country. However, Mike, they are not all controlled and managed by a higher constituent. This is why they're called leaders and not managers. Very true. Very true. I shouldn't do these lives and read the comments. I end up tripping over my own words. Preparing spiritually is just as important. I'd like to think it is for the people that have faith and people who believe, and I envy them people who have true faith and believe in things like that. I, unfortunately, am very logical and scientific. Until I see it, I don't believe it, I'm afraid. So I just got to prepare myself on this plane, in this life, in this body. Immoral, ineffective, and expensive sums the SNP up. Interesting. I thought there was a lot more support for the SNP in Scotland than I actually knew about. And people that know me more so from like a lot on this channel and outside of this channel know that like my partner's family is Scottish and I go up there quite a lot now. And yeah, the support's not as big as I thought for them up there. It's funny how they actually get so many votes because everyone I seem to speak to don't seem to have a strong opinion. And why are we? It's mad that some of the parties like this. We've had political debates recently, and there was just one there where they were doing the interview with the leaders, and we've had the leader of Plaid Cymru on every single one, like he's the major player. I'm confused at the TV channels' choices in this. Rift is just doubling up on his cheaper for crowbars. Why does it keep jumping me back to the bottom and top? Sorry, guys, the comments thing's all over the place. David Cameron forgot he left his kids in the pub. Does anyone remember that? Yeah, I do remember that. Agree, Mike. Raise the tax and they will take the firms to a more tax-friendly country. We may not like that, but it's economic reality. This is it. When companies as big as Starbucks will do anything to avoid tax, all you're going to do by taxing the super rich, sometimes like the policies from like the Green Party feel to me like, oh yes, lovely. In an ideal utopian Star Trek world, that would be great. But sometimes they just don't work out. That's not how the world works. Question. Here we go. We need questions. Light-hearted one for the end. Which leader in SHTF would you buddy up with and why? I'd go from the woman for the Greens because she could make a meal out of dandelions and wool. I like that. I love that, Johnny Evans. Ooh, I don't know if I'd want to be trapped in a room with any of them, to be fair. Yeah, not sure with that one. I haven't got an answer. Not at the moment. Actually, I'd partner up with Rishi Sunak, only because I think he's about 4 foot tall and wafer thin. He's not going to eat any massive lies. Hey, Mike, which party is currently in place where you live? Have you seen any benefits? We've been Tory here in Southport for a while now. The town has gone to pot. Same here, pretty much where I am. Originally a Labour place, now Conservative. And yeah, the local councils, I don't think it matters. The best local councillor I ever had living in a place was a Lib Dem one. But it doesn't affect my national vote because it's a completely different thing. It's weird how you can be completely separated from them local elections with local councils. But yeah, I'll tell you one thing. Council tax is ridiculous no matter where you are. What's up, Monkey? Monkey Wrench in the house there. Superb. Green's the Watermelon Party. I'm going to try, once we get to the end of these comments, we'll end it. But Green's the Watermelon Party on outside, red on the inside. The vote for Brexit and the media backlash, the attempt to reverse their vote kind of swayed my view. This is the thing. This annoyed more people than they realise. A lot of the parties, anyone looking to backtrack on the Brexit vote, it's a betrayal to democracy. Whether you voted to remain or to leave, you should respect the result. At the end of the day, you can't just, let's call a referendum, oh, we lost, let's have another one, we lost again, let's have another one. You can't just keep going till you win one, because what's going to happen when you win? The other side's going to say the same thing. It really annoys me, the people trying to reverse something like that. The people want out, and they said they wanted out. The problem, let me say, this is just my 2 cents, guys. I apologize. If I lose followers, be damned with you. But the problem with Brexit wasn't Brexit. Voting to leave, no issue. Voting to remain, no issue. The problem was how it was handled after the fact. You vote to exit, and then it's up to you then to negotiate better deals or not, to do better for your own country or not, to adopt the good European laws and throw out the other ones or not. So when everyone says Brexit ruined the economy, no, it didn't. The decisions made after the fact destroyed a lot of it. The supporters claps greatly, and long may it continue. They create toxic atmosphere where if you criticise the party, you are considered to be anti-Scottish. Well, yeah, this is it. I mean, that's starting to get national fronty territory, isn't it? When they start getting like that, so it's just going to alienate more people. Lilith contributes with yummy dandelion soup. We're coming towards the end here, guys. So I think Trump and Farage are a good match in terms of Western allies, says Tell. I think there's a couple of people have said that already. Yeah, it's interesting. How much do you think Trump-Biden affects us, though? That's the question. I know a lot of us have opinions on one or the other, and we swear on American politics, even though technically it's not. Thank you, Bob. Will you please stop throwing money at me? I feel like I should dance or something. No, I really appreciate donations. I really do. They do help the channel out. I'm just not very good at receiving gifts. I just get all awkward. Lady J, mind if you're anti-BS, that puts you in most parties' bad books. Yeah, this is the thing. Let's see what Bob said. Teachers destroy education, doctors destroy health, lawyers destroy justice, and governments destroy freedoms. Snivel service. Thank you. It's true. Interestingly enough, quite a few people in the prepper community, and one that's close to us in our community with the prepper fireside and that, is an advocate for, well, complete anarchy to begin with, but the forming of small local governments, like we govern ourselves as you would. But I mean, that might be better in the short term, but eventually it's going to grow to the size of local council, and they're still going to charge me 160 quid to forget to empty my bins if I don't move it 1 inch closer to the curb. Which party is more patriotic? That is a very difficult one. Very difficult one, Tell. Which parties Reform claims to be the most patriotic. I thought Conservative was a very patriotic party. Sunak kind of kicked that between the legs with what he did with the Remembrance Day, with the D-Day celebrations. Yeah, I wouldn't like to say. It would be interesting to see other people's take on that. So which party do you think is more patriotic, guys, in the chat? Chump and a toilet bug are a good match. Why I like you and preppers. Appreciate it, Bob. I really do appreciate you. Biden hate the British. He's one of those confused Americans who think they're Irish. Oh, careful. We have an Irish. Well, he's not even confused that he thinks he's Irish. Monkey here is Irish, born there, and then moved over to the States. So careful. He'll be out for you. And I think Biden's just confused most of the time from what I've seen. I don't know how true it is. You don't know what's AI these days, but from what I've seen, he looks very confused on stage a lot of the time. Bob, don't agree with the teachers and doctors' comments. Most of them are hardworking, undervalued, but I do agree with the lawyers and government. Can I tell you, I've got family in the NHS and a lot of the services. I've got friends in the fire service, things like that. Do you know what the problems with most of these services are? And it's not a lack of doctors. It's not a lack of funding. It's administration. You've got a ward of 20 nurses. If you hire one secretary to handle the paperwork they do, they will spend 10 times as much time with patients. Literally. Doctors, nurses, they spend more time inputting stuff into systems, doing paperwork, filing things than they do caring for patients. What we need is an overhaul of the system where there is admins, there is assistants in there. You are creating a few more jobs for less skilled workers, and you are freeing up the skilled workers to actually do what they're supposed to be there doing. How many times have you been to a GP and you see a patient come out and it's still 45 minutes before you go in? It's because that's the rest of the time he's typing stuff up. It's insane. Monkey wrench. Any president in America is a figurehead. They get blamed for everything and have little to no power. Yes. If you didn't see it, go and check out mine and Monkey's Prepper podcast, the last episode of Prepper podcast we did, and we do delve into that a bit. People think the political system, I've just said that about the UK as well, people think it hangs around the head of these Keir Starmer, Sunak, Farage. It's not. They are just a figurehead of that party. That party will continue with or without them, and it's their party policies you should be looking at and not voting for them as an individual. It annoys the hell out of me when you watch the BBC debates and they address the Labour Party as the Labour Party. They address the Conservative Party as the Conservative Party. They addressed Reform UK as Nigel Farage. They never addressed it as Reform Party, and that really annoys me. Right, we're at the end. So that's enough ranting. 47 minutes I've been ranting and rambling. We haven't even gone through all the manifestos, and I've gone blurry. Focus. I used to be a shop steward and I won't be voting Labour, says Paul Thomas. Right. Thanks, guys, for being here. Appreciate all of you in the comments. Appreciate the donations. That is awesome. And all the members that have been here. Anybody that comes after and is watching this after the fact, please leave a comment below. I'll go through them. I do want to talk more on politics and more on individual parties as we go through. If you don't want to see that, tell me. If you do want to see that, tell me. I go off your feedback, guys, but I just wanted to get my own rants out there. Probably trying to help my own decision, who I vote for. So, yeah, thanks, guys. Really appreciate it. And don't forget to check out the rest of the videos. Check out all the guys in the comments, all the members, all the moderators. They've all got channels, Scottish Prepper, Monkey Wrench, loads of them in there. Make sure you go and check them out as well. See you later.